Welcome back to the Beauty Official Podcast. I'm Evan Ross Katz, and I'm about to spontaneously combust for our next guest. I'm here with the iconic, Oscar-nominated, international cinema star and true timeless beauty, Isabella Rossellini, to chat about her role as the big pharma billionaire's wife in FX's The Beauty. Isabella, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I want to start by asking what drew you to this project. I get the sense that you are selective with the opportunities that come to you in terms of what you say yes to. So what gave this a yes?
Well, the first, it was, I have to say, Ryan Murphy, because I am a fan of his work. And he called me up on the phone, and I was so amazed that the conversation was so easy. And when I read the script, it was a little bit like leaping in the void. But I did get the irony. I think beauty is probably you sit on your edge of your seat, is very suspenseful, is very adventurous, but is ultimately very funny.
Yes.
It's very ironic.
Very much so. And when he was presenting the character of Franny to you, what appealed to you about her?
I did like this idea of this woman who is very opinionated, is very strong, and in a way, she does love beauty because she loves fashion, but she defines beauty in a different way than the others. The other is youth and muscles and physical beauty, and she defines it instead as art, the expression of your clothing rather than not having wrinkles or looking young. So I like that because it's also a little bit me.
Well, it's interesting because obviously the show is about beauty, but I think that the show itself also brings about conversations in real life based off of things seen on the show. And so I'm wondering, how much did being a part of the show make you think about the concept of beauty and where we are as a society in terms of our views on what is beautiful? Because I think it's obviously ever evolving.
Yes, and it has become never ending.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be young, you have to be thin, you have to be strong. So the demands are becoming very, very strong. And I think everybody feels a bit overwhelmed by what to do. And I think that Ryan captures that excess that there is in our society and makes fun of it, because where is the limit?
Right.
And it's hard to be wise, isn't it?
Yeah. How do you define beauty?
Well, maybe because I belong to another generation, and I'm European, and I'm my mom's daughter, my mom, Ingrid Bergman. I defined it as more like Fran, my character.
I get that sense.
That it is the art, is the expression of elegance, is in your mind, and how do you want to present yourself to the others? What is that you want to communicate through clothes rather than I'm just going to obey to the command of youth and thinness. There are little bits of her in me.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering what role you think social media plays in all of this. You were on social media.
You know, I grew up being the object, although I was a daughter, I wasn't famous myself, but we were the object of attention and criticism. And now I think it has become for everybody. Social media has created what I lived as a little girl. When you opt in social media, I think you started by saying, oh, I would like to be in touch with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right.
the evil comes in, because the friends are not the friends, are people you don't know. And they say, oh, you look really old. You look older than your age. Why don't you lose some weight? And then you just say, oh, you know. And that was the comment that growing up being the object of the gossip press and the paparazzi, my family was the object of their attention, we had all the time. And I think now everybody has it with social media. But I don't think but also there are good things about social media, I have to say.
Are you ever surprised at the conflation between beauty and youth? Because I can understand people's desire to be beautiful, whatever that means, because I think the idea of beauty is so subjective. But the kind of conflation I feel between beauty and youth and the obsession as beauty as defined by youth.
I think it's more culturally, I mean, it exists a little bit all over the world, but it's more extreme in America. I don't know why, maybe it was always like that. Because America is such an energetic country, controls energy and associated with youth.
Right.
But in Europe, it's a little less like that. And I think when I was a little girl growing up in Italy and France, there was huge respect for older people. So I don't know if it was me, that I was admiring the older people. This beauty series is all about that.
Yes.
It's about where is the boundaries, what is good, what is bad, how do you define it? Because I think every day we are fighting with it within ourselves. We're fighting how far do we go into doing a little bit more of a plastic surgery, a little bit more Botox, change my hair color, do I do this, how far are we willing to go? Or are we saying, oh, this is bad for my health, I better stop?
Well, that's the interesting thing, too, is how the conversation of health comes into the equation, right? Because there is a Venn diagram between beauty and health.
Yes.
And so I think there are some instances in which we tell ourselves we're doing something for our health that maybe the byproduct might be, okay, for instance, I've got a deviated septum, so I'm going to have my nose done, and maybe my nose will be a little straighter. So I think sometimes we tell ourselves under the guise of health in order to kind of have the effect ultimately be beauty.
Yes, you're right about that. So why didn't I do any plastic surgery? I mean, it's a very personal reason. I had a very big operation when I was a little girl, a scoliosis, which is deformity of the spine, and that completely terrified me about any operation. And so the idea to select to do an operation, that trauma, that was the last thing I wanted to do. I'd rather be old and figure out what else to do if they don't want me as a model anymore, as an actress, rather than have an operation. So partially was that. Partially, I think, is cultural. Again, my mom didn't have any, and so I didn't think it was important to do it. Yeah.
But what a marvelous thing, because in not doing this, you, to me, and to so many, are a standard bearer of beauty.
But my career is doing better now that I'm in my 70s than when I was young and 35 and young and beautiful.
So what's that about? You are beautiful.
Thank you, but I am so surprised. I'm having a better career now than when I was young and beautiful as an actress.
I wonder if there's something too in audiences appreciating rediscovery. And I think a lot about Ryan Murphy in this instance, and thinking about his work with Jessica Lange and Kathy Bates and how many
he's definitely a film buff. I mean, he's a very, very cultivated, and he really loves films. And his directions were all about fragment of film. It isn't even a narration of the film. It's a turn of an actress, a costume, a gesture, an attitude. It was fascinating because also when he gave me the instruction, I knew exactly what he was saying. There is a scene where we are in a yacht, and Ashton, who plays my husband, is in the swimming pool looking fabulous, and I get there on a deck above him, and I lean over and I said, "Every night I pray for your death." And he said, "You do that in Evita Peron." And I knew exactly what he talked about because, of course, in the musical, Evita Peron appears in the window as she did in real life, talking to the adoring Argentinian. And he was able to capture these iconic images. And maybe it's only our generation who has that culture, because 2 generations before, everybody only read. But when you read, you can imagine things differently. Right. But when you see a film, and you can quote a book, but he has it visually.
He does. It's interesting. I mean, we're here today to talk about episode 7, so I don't want to give anything away, but there is a great homage related to your character that happens in episode 11. And minor spoiler, but it has to do with the film Death Becomes Her. And I want to bring that up because I spoke to Ryan ahead of this interview today, and he told me that he saw Death Becomes Her in theaters 4 times.
He never told me that.
Isn't that interesting? It's like he saw something in this film that I think it's fair to say it has had a slow burn trajectory in terms of its popularity.
Yes.
If you were to guess what it was that young Ryan saw in that film, what would it be?
Well, I don't know what Ryan saw, but I do know the great Robert Zemeckis, who had done film before like Roger Rabbit or Forrest Gump. He attracted families. You could go with 5-year-old and 85-year-old to his movies. And so when we did Death Becomes Her, I think the film was addressed to everybody.
But I think that's a remarkably powerful thing about great art, is that sometimes it finds its audience when it's meant to. And in that case, it's like it came into the world fully formed, and yet the audience for it hadn't quite figured that out.
Yes.
And then years and years later, you have people continuing to discover this movie and love it in a way that, like, time and place kind of thing, that it just needed to age a little bit.
Yes, I am so happy about it. I'm so surprised about it. And there is a musical that becomes a
Yes.
fantastic musical.
Yes. I want to ask just about when you look back on the experience, both those initial conversations with Ryan, reading through those scripts, filming this show, what does this experience mean to you?
To leap into a world that it is much more popular, it reaches a bigger audience, we think. But it has the same quality. I think it is a very artistic. And I think the irony, the sense of humor, the originality. When I read the script, I don't think I've ever read anything like it. I've seen anything like it. It really is the same as working with David Lynch. It is avant-garde in a very big, popular way.
Yeah. There's a thought pattern you could have around sort of the uncertainty of like taking on something like this. And yet I am really heartened by the fact that you kind of wanted to take the leap of faith and have this adventure. Is this just a quality about you? You like trying something new?
Yes, but that comes also with age, because what is there to lose? It's a great adventure. I mean, I always loved Ryan Murphy's shows. So this one is quite different.
Yeah.
I knew the quality and the talent was there,
Yeah.
so I just said, yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Lastly, I just want to ask, is there a particular moment on set that will really stay with you? A particular scene or a moment? Could be behind the scenes while filming?
I think it was working with Ashton because you always knew that the chemistry between us two had to define this couple. And I had not met him, and I knew about him because he's a star. And he was so warm and so fun because I was so bitchy. You're the same dumpster with a fresh coat of paint, you clown boy. I'm so horrible. So it was difficult the character. It's hard, to be so insulting to a person. And he was so amused that it became fun to do it. Because also, I think the character themselves, deep down, they like it. They're a little bit sadomasochistic.
Oh, absolutely.
And they love to torture each other. And that's their bond.
Yes. Well, this has been anything but torturous. Thank you so much. This has been a true delight.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You so much. I'm jealous that you've seen it.
That's all for this time. On the next podcast, I'm back with the Beauty's Hatchet Men, multi-talented theater, film, and television stars Anthony Ramos and Jeremy Pope on FX's The Beauty. Watch new episodes of The Beauty on FX or stream on Hulu or Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Be sure to rate, review, and follow The Beauty official podcast wherever you watch or listen. I'm Evan Ross Katz, and I'll see you next time.